It's a little chilly in this office.
Chilly? It's fucking hot as hell, dude. You're just getting too skinny, I guess.
Oh, wow.
Oh, sorry. Mr. Carl Batiste is in the house. Is in the house.
As multi-billionaire Carl Batiste.
That's right.
And then you can talk about the
That is right.
multiple hundreds of homes I've purchased from the team.
Carl's also an avid purchaser in the Austin, Texas area.
Yes, he is.
We're huge on Austin in this podcast.
Is this thing on right now?
Honestly, we should change the podcast to all things Austin.
Not anymore.
It's a rare condition this day and age to read any good news on the newspaper page. And love and tradition of the grand design, some people say is even harder to find.
I'm going to jump into this before we get to your Mustache Minute. One, we have the extraordinaire general manager, operating partner, Carl Batiste, joining us with Keller Williams, KGRE Estates. He's in the house, stepped in to replace David and Aaron. So we got one Carl to replace two of our guys, which is awesome, which is all it's about. Carl, you're, not only have you kind of replaced me on the KW side of things, thank you very much, so we can focus on our team. But you also have a pretty strong real estate team in sales right here in the Bay Area, in addition to the leadership role that you've taken on.
Correct.
What have you seen, or what is your team currently experiencing? Where's your team located at right now?
Danville, East Bay.
Danville, East Bay, okay.
Yep.
What are they, I'm assuming they're experiencing kind of similarities to what our market is here, but what?
Very much so. The demand is still high, and rates are wherever they are on a given day.
Right.
And inventory is still considerably low, and yet sometimes we have a house on the market and we get flooded with people in, and then other times people kind of sit there and we're not sure. And I think it's about educating both sellers and buyers as to what the market's about and where it's headed for the best that we know. Yeah. We only know what happened. We know what's happening now. We don't know everything, so it's about making choices.
Right.
So the market is just they're very different.
Yeah.
Very, very different. It's not much different than down here.
Right, and that's something that we've talked about here. So we have so many of these micro economies, right? Micro geographical locations where we have to be careful of overgeneralizing things. Where Santa Clara County's down 20%. But that's gonna be different if you're in Gilroy, Morgan Hill, or Berryessa, or maybe Danville compared to downtown Los Gatos. I'm assuming the same thing. Danville's a very popular, marketable area, desirable area. So, but maybe one of the outlying areas, Livermore or something like that, you might see a difference.
Changes can change drastically in some cases, right? In terms of how quickly something moves. So when you talk about average days on market, it's like where? What zip code? What neighborhood?
Right.
And it literally can be, as you know, right down to a neighborhood.
Right. Absolutely. Cool.
I mean, that's a good segue into the market update.
Do
you have the numbers?
No. I'm going to push that over to you. I got a bunch of these lists here in our industry.
Well, let's get a quick market update here. Currently, we have...
Is this just a market update, or is it a...
Mustache Minute is coming.
There we go.
Don't worry. Don't worry. Dave's not here. Someone's got to be able to take over on this the market minute here.
You just keep us around.
So we have 906 single-family homes on the market, 402 townhomes and condos. A pretty interesting number I looked up. In between the month of October and November, 309 homes got listed. Currently, between November and December, we're sitting at 273, so we're staying pretty even with the market and putting homes on the market. Although we are still limited, they are still coming on at the same pace that they have been coming on. We have 120 off-market properties, so whoever is looking for a good deal, you know where to find them. And in other news with that, November, surprisingly, is a record month for sellers removing properties from the market.
No surprise there.
And adjusting prices to their homes, which might be a sign of now people coming more to the realization or just now more in reality of where the market's actually at.
It's interesting. I had the honor of hosting our or moderating our mastermind yesterday for we call them our mega agents. Those are the ones that are 20 million plus, kind of like what our team does. And then some. And, again, we went around the room, where's this market going? What have we experienced? In that room, we had a combined almost $800 million of production and, probably a couple hundred years worth of combined experience. And it was interesting. Everybody had something different to say, right? Although the consensus was that, again, we're not on this nosedive, that it's going to be kind of balancing out. We're just trying to find where the ground is on that and how bad is inflation or interest rates going to hit. But we know interest rates just came down. Michael Houghton, he just told us yesterday that, they're down to 3.5% with a 2-point buy down. So, and gas is coming down, prices are coming down. So it'll be interesting to see how this shakes out as we get into the first quarter.
Yeah, with the interest rates going up, and again, this is before the Friday, the small come down on Friday, but before when they did peak over 7%, that was the lowest time in the last 22 years that mortgage officers were refinancing, and you were seeing refinances, which is absolutely crazy, especially for a lot of people my age who have parents who locked in their first home at an 18% interest rate.
Right.
Like how?
Yeah, for sure.
It has changed quite a bit. But like you said about the inflation, inflation definitely is still up, which is hindering a lot of the purchasing ability. Looking at the numbers, it shows that we are down, or we are up from last month, but we are down from last year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because your monthly stats are going to be a lot different than the annual
Correct.
stats, right? I would expect to see that. When we talk about inflation, it's interesting. I have one on my list here again.
We're big list on this show.
Yes,
big list people.
So, what's the number one item when we look at a CPI or inflation? What's the number one item that has been impacted? What's had the highest inflation percentage? Take a guess. What's costing you the most?
It's either going to be gas or food.
Food.
Gasoline,
It's food.
yeah.
95.2% year over year.
Yeah.
95. That's number one. Eggs of all things, 43%.
And we were just talking about that with Aaron yesterday too, about different areas where we have seen these food increases, and I feel like, and I just went to New York last week, and I feel like we're so accustomed to how much we have to pay here for food and drinks. Yeah. But then when you go to these other states and you come out, it's like it's all catching up.
Well, God forbid you go on a vacation to Hawaii, right, Carl?
Oh, totally. $12 for a thing of yogurt. It's like, I don't think I want any yogurt.
And you hear the shock in people in other areas, and people, I can't believe we're paying this much. And again, coming from California, it's like, you become so accustomed and tuned into,
and that's where, again, I'm going to say it, that's where I think greedflation kicks in, because the businesses and the suppliers recognize that where our habits are, right? And we're now used to paying $6 a gallon or $10 for a carton of eggs now and stuff.
And it's the slow increase. It's such a weird example I'm going to bring, but the $1 McChicken is now over $2. That is over 100%.
Did they bring the McRib back too or something?
And that's now at $8.
But Mark, you make a great point that when you talk about slowly.
Yeah.
It's like you hear people advertising now, we're dropping gas prices for you. That's from $6.29 to $5.49.
Right.
And when you think about
that's a great deal.
Wait a minute, right? Time out.
Right.
The message I think, though, with buyers right now that are a little apprehensive is when you just talked about 18%, if you go back and take a look at where interest rates have been over the last 25 or 30 years, in a small world where you're just looking at a 6-month window, 6%, 7%, 4% might feel high compared to where it was at 3%, and yet it's still so low in terms of buyer ability.
So there's been this term that everyone's kind of embracing again, which is marry the price, date the rate. What's your guys' take on that? What does that really mean?
I mean, it means what it means what it means. At the end of the day, the interest rate, if you buy a home and you lock in a price point, that's the price point you're going to have for either 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. Right. The interest rate is something that's going to constantly change. And again,
but everybody's focused on the interest rate right now.
That's correct.
Right? That's what's scaring everybody off.
Well, because the price, as the interest rates go up, that mortgage you see is just becoming it's increasing at such a quick speed that people aren't catching up to the level of the interest creeping. And again, it's hard for my generation, I think, to really understand this as it is for parents to understand this or people who have bought a home before to understand this. Yeah. But as interest fluctuate, it becomes a lot easier to own a home in the long run as you can start to play with those finances and really increase your buying power or spending power in the future.
Yeah, I think if you ask most people, How many of you have stayed in your 30-year mortgage? Most people would say, no.
Yeah.
And so if you get into something where it's maybe not your ideal rate, 2 years, 3 years up the road, you may refinance that again anyway. And so if you focus too much on that first number and do the math, look and see what your monthly payment is. If that's not all that undoable or not doable or doable, I mean, why sacrifice your goals?
Right. 18% of people stay in their homes for 30 years.
And that's
18%.
low.
It's very low, right? Yeah. It's
I
interesting.
can't even imagine being in a spot like 30
I know,
years.
right? Well, obviously, if it's your home, you're going to be in Santa Clara County. You know, people stay in their area, but their home is always kind of moving, right?
But
it's life events.
And,
it's
and again,
hey,
I think
gotta
that is
grow
such
with my
a
family.
and it's such a generational thing.
Yeah.
If you bought a home in the 80s or the 90s for less than $500,000, $300,000. And it's an area you see yourself in, and your kids, and you have grandkids that grow in the area. But now, grandkids are moving so quick. There's no need to.
I think there's another fundamental part of this where Silicon Valley, that was filled with orchards and stuff, was a affordable area to buy back then. So people, their first homes were 4-bedroom, 3-bath homes that were affordable. Where now, first-time home buyers of your generation, they can only buy a 1 or 2-bedroom condo. So they're forced to have to do that step up, right? Those moves.
Yeah.
So going back to the inflation numbers real quick. So airline fares, 43% increase. That's the top three. And on the reverse side of this, opposite side, smartphones are down 23%. Smartphones. Televisions are down 16%. And this one I didn't get. Beef, because I've seen beef prices soar.
Skyrocket.
It says it's down 3.6, but, there you go.
Interesting.
There you go.
What is increasing? Layoffs. And I have been saying this, I think, since like the very first podcast that we started. This month, obviously, everyone has seen what has happened, especially with Facebook. That was the largest layoff in the history of a round of layoffs with 11,000 people.
Of Facebook, but let's face it, Facebook has been on this incline of just following the tech, following social media, following all these scenarios, and what was it, 11,000 people they laid off. We got to realize that's not just in our area. That's worldwide. That's like worldwide.
That's right.
And that's what I think a lot of people don't get either, is that the bar for layoffs, I think, is a lot higher than what we know, because during the pandemic, we had such an increase I think we had the largest increase in employment at one point last year. So for us to come back down to a neutral area, it's looking like the California market. Our correction is just massive because we were so high before that we're now.
But everything's going to retract after the growth, right? I mean, nothing goes on a straight line. It's going to go up, going to go down. And then there's just a question of how far up it's going to go and how far down. And we got to realize this up scenario we just have had we've never seen it in our lifetime,
especially in tech. I mean, social media, tech, that
crazy.
whole thing. It matches everything though. Real estate goes up and down, interest rates go up and down, right? It's just unemployment, the whole thing.
And a couple other notable companies. Amazon froze hiring. Apple has basically paused hiring, and Google has now dropped it 50%.
Wells Fargo's announced a layoff not long ago. Lots.
It's an interesting,
It is.
All right.
So where's your mustache
we have.
minute? let you take the honors there.
Mustache Market Minute. Do not forget to budget closing cost. As a home buyer, many people focus on whether you have your gift money coming in or you have your saved money set aside to put down for a home. Everyone knows, budget for the furnishing of the home, budget for all the remodel, the renovations, have money for your mortgage in the future, but no one thinks about the closing costs.
That's right.
Right? And that is going to be an extra, as a buyer in Santa Clara County, it's obviously a lot less than what it is in some other areas, but I would say between 0.8 and 1% of the purchase price is what you should budget for. And that's not even counting if you're going to buy down a point or if you're going to, it's... Make sure you speak to your lender. You know what your closing costs are going to be, and adjust for that when buying a home.
Well, and a good point too. Now that we're seeing some concessions coming back on the marketplace, if you negotiate closing costs to be paid on behalf of the buyer by the seller, make sure you're going to spend those closing costs, right? Generally, you're only going to do, and make sure it's always up to. So if you're going to negotiate a $10,000 seller pay closing cost, make sure it's a non-recurring closing cost up to $10,000, and check with your mortgage broker or your lender to ensure that they're going to approve that, right? A lot of times we'll see where an agent will just put in to pay $10,000 for closing costs, and all of a sudden the buyer only has $5,400 in closing costs. They're like, well, where's my $4,600? It's like, well, no, that's not the way it works.
Oh, and taxes. If
And-
you
and-
impound or if you don't impound, it makes
Right.
a difference, right?
Yeah,
That exposing
absolutely.
people.
Absolutely.
I have a
Good
question. Question from a buyer this week. Would it be easier? I'll ask you guys about this. Would it be easier to pay off my existing debt, whether it is a large payment on a car, student debt, I have a couple credit cards open and I have debt, or would it be smarter just to save more money to put down on a home?
Carl, I'll let you take this. I have a thought on that, but go ahead.
I'm a firm believer in getting rid of interest, period.
Yes. Yes.
Especially high interest first, right? And a lot of people are stuck in because they don't manage credit
Right.
correctly, or they're striving to get some sort of credit, or paying 14%, 15%, 20%. To me, you're losing 20%, 20 cents on a dollar.
Oh,
Right.
high interest
And
credit
be
definitely
able to
limits the
save
purchasing.
that is all of that can go into savings once that's paid off.
Yeah. The average interest rate on credit card debt right now is 19.9%.
Which is-
That's huge. So, you have your American Express card that you pay off every single month, or whatever card it is, pay that consumer debt down, because that's what the lenders are going to look at with your debt to income ratio, right? And that's what they're going to qualify you on and everything else. So I'm the same with Carl. I mean, debt
Get rid of
is
it.
not your friend. I don't have a problem with leveraging when it comes to
Yeah.
purchasing real estate and having that work for you, for your wealth building means. But definitely, especially for younger generations coming out, minimize the debt. Student debt you can't really do much of, but credit cards,
Cars.
via cars.
Well, and especially you go out today and it's like, oh wow, I can buy a computer for 0% interest for a year.
Yeah.
And people get into that piece, and then they don't pay it off in a year, and then they have to go pay 24% all the way back to the very beginning,
Yeah.
and that's a trap.
Well, and be careful of those teaser rates that come
That's
in,
right.
right?
And I believe I heard my lender last mention to a client of mine that losing or not having $1,000 worth of buying power, if it's going to something else in debt, you lose about $150,000 worth of purchasing power for a property.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Hey, I'm going to go into some kind of stats in our industry. Carl, this is, I know, interesting to us because we
Yep.
deal with agents all the time. Do you have any idea how many real estate brokerages that there are in the nation?
Brokerages.
There you go. Over 100,000, 106,000. Okay. Do you have know how many real estate agents, licensed real estate agents there are?
Well, are we talking about nationwide or
Nationwide.
here?
Let's go nationwide. We'll break it down here.
And there's how many brokerages?
Well, brokerages, there's 106,000 brokerages.
So,
Okay.
100. I'm going to say in the world.
No, in the
United
nation,
States.
in America.
In the
Yep.
nation. Over 20 million.
Wow, that's
I'm
a
gonna-
big number
I'm
there.
I'm gonna say 3 million.
3 million, no.
2.6.
There's
3 million?
1.6.
Okay.
There's 1.6.
How many are in California? Isn't my license?
Well,
number
I'm not sure
02,
California. I know.
065?
Now, this is an amazing thing when you narrow it down to Santa Clara County, and this is where there's 13,000 agents in Santa Clara County. 13,000.
Yeah.
13,000. Now, there's only approximately what? I mean, we're dealing with the inventory, so you probably have a sales of around 10,000 homes, right?
Yep.
10, 12,000 homes.
Well, I mean,
So
Los Angeles
that's like
has-
one.
How many houses
Yeah,
did you say were
32
listed?
homes on the market.
32
Yeah,
homes.
I mean the average. This is what amazing. I guess what's interesting on this for like a consumer level is everybody has a real estate license, right? And it's so easy to just go with your brother or your dad. You got to go with individuals that are experienced and know what they're doing. The average real estate agent makes $43,000 a year. That's what the average is.
Yeah.
I mean, the average in Santa Clara County is like $55,000. I mean, anyway, so interesting things. And here's the other point, interesting part of this was at the last highest scenario, we went up to, and of course, 2006 was the last highest amount of licensed agents we had nationwide, and it was 1.3 million, 1.3 million agents.
Yeah.
We're now at 1.6. But what happened between 2006 to 2011, we dropped down to 900. So we had about a 40% loss of people in our industry, and we're anticipating the same thing, right? Because it's just getting a lot
And you know
harder
what it
to do
tells
that.
you, Mark, right? The people
Yep.
that are jumping off the merry-go-round are
Yep.
the people that don't produce. So I think the caveat for
Yeah.
a lot of buyers and sellers out there is to make sure they do their due diligence
Yep.
in who they hire, right? There's a lot of average that fall out. You don't want to hire an average team or an average
Well,
group.
and that's great.
You wouldn't hire an average dentist. You wouldn't hire an average accountant, right? So it's just as important you do the due diligence on a team or a group that's experienced and can execute.
100%. Because do you know what the average size of real estate transactions are for a realtor?
4.
12. That's residential real estate transactions is 12.
12 for one agent.
For one agent, that's
A year.
the average. A year.
No.
Right? Yeah. I mean,
What
and
market
what is
is
it?
that?
We did 105.
That's
Our
one a
team did.
month. That's
Yeah.
not quite even close
see,
to mastering.
And that's
Well,
what I'm saying. In other areas, okay, so again, in other areas like Austin, Texas, where there's 9,000 homes on the
Right.
market, yeah, maybe agents do once a month. But again, you come back to an area like the Santa Clara County, especially in Los Gatos,
Yeah.
there's 32 homes on the market and probably, 1,500
Yeah.
agents? Like, there's
Well, keep in mind,
64
this is a national average.
Exactly.
Right, across
Even
the,
so, though,
Yep.
Ben, can you imagine if I were your dentist and I said I've done 12 fillings this year? You jump out of the chair.
Yeah, right.
You jump out of the chair and you'd be headed down the road, right?
Absolutely.
It's true.
And
It's
once
true.
again, it's like, do you want average or do you want somebody who excels,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And just a couple of quick facts here. So the average real estate agent is a 56-year-old white woman who attended college and is a homeowner. 66% of all realtors are female. So what I love about our industry, we're very diverse.
Yep.
We're very equal opportunity across. Again, the median age is 56. Real estate experience is 8 years. So just some fun facts there about our industry. You know, how about where buyers are finding homes? Where do buyers find homes?
Well, if you're with an agent, you're finding it through that.
Internet, 51%.
Yep.
Real estate agents, 29%. And this is what's funny when people focus on different things like newspaper ads or yard signs. Only 4% get them from a yard sign. Do you know how many houses that are actually sold through the open house process? 1 in every 400. So when you have those clients that always want an open house every single weekend, the odds are it's not going to sell just from that open
And
house.
I honestly think there are some agents out there who throw their signs out on the weekend, and all the arrows are just leading right back, back to nowhere.
To their front door.
It's strictly just a marketing
so it's
ad
just-
just
Exactly.
to their face.
Yeah.
As it,
Yeah.
And the least marketing source that generates business or sales, print media, print newspaper, less than 1%.
Yeah,
Less than
I
1%.
think that's-
You know, so but again, that's where your client's like, oh, I want to see a newspaper ad every single. It's like, we're not in the 80s anymore. That doesn't generate. That's not where the buyers come from.
Think about the millions of people that touch Instagram, Facebook,
Yeah.
right? This is where people are today,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Not everybody, but huge.
It's interesting. I was
huge
reading an
group.
article
Yeah.
about some of the top producing agents now, and it used to be top producers were generated kind of grassroots, and it's our databases and all that. Those are now coming out of television, HDTV, and all those TV shows
Yeah.
and stuff. So our podcast is just the beginning of that. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Gotta find ourselves on Netflix and Asia.
There you go.
I think it'd be pretty fun.
That would
I
be
think it'd be a great comedy.
It would be a comedy. It'd be a sitcom.
For sure.
All
Yes,
right.
yeah, for sure.
Carl, how long have you been in the business?
17 years.
17 years. What's the biggest challenge that you see for us moving forward? And I know that's kind of a loaded question because for who, right? Is it the sellers, the buyers, or agents?
Yeah.
Let's say for sellers, where do you think the biggest challenge is right now?
I think the biggest challenge for sellers right now is the fact that in this market, there's so much equity, right? And I think people could get falsely lured into hanging on to something and therefore forfeiting dreams and goals because they feel like I got all this equity and right now I don't want to go buy and spend more money. And yet, as you just mentioned, if you time this correctly, you don't have to spend more money. Interest rates dropped, or you buy something and refinance it again. If your goal is to make a move, sellers need to go back to their motivation and not forfeit their goals.
Right, because the
It's easy
concern
to stay frozen.
the concern there is the individual who saw that their house was worth, say, $2 million 6 months ago at the top of the market, and now it's shifted down to, say, $1.8 million.
Yep.
And not realizing that, well, listen, 3 years ago, that house was only worth $1.2.
Right. I'm still.
And you're looking to move where your grandkids are in that next chapter of your life, and yet, I just lost this money, right? Well, you didn't lose it, right? I mean, you didn't. It wasn't the right time for you to sell. What's the biggest challenge for buyers?
Is getting into a property, right? Especially when inventory is low. The other thing too is I think right now in this market, if buyers watch too much news instead of consult with their real estate professional,
yeah.
they get this generalized feeling that the market's crashing, which it's not.
Not in all
and
areas,
we'll
right.
say, well, you know what? I was going to buy back when. Now I want to buy and put an offer in for $200,000 less, and the seller's not going to make that move. So it's kind of like sellers in the bleachers on this side, buyers in the bleachers on this side, and everybody else is on the field saying, somebody play. And by the same token, the buyer ends up compromising their goals and dreams.
Yeah.
So it's listen to your professional.
And not the headlines. And not
Yeah,
the
because it's
headlines,
not
right?
hyper local, right? It's important to understand it. And make sure you go back to sellers and buyers need to go back to their motivation.
Yep.
If it's grandchildren, if it's retirement, if it's sell my house and downsize so I can go on vacation more, don't freeze yourself based on financials, right? Because there's the logical side and there's the emotional side. And we do both.
Biggest challenge for agents.
Biggest challenge for agents right now is staying focused on the goal, the business, the goal, the skill set, and making sure that you outpace the people that are doing it part-time. Those are the people that actually, if I can say that, actually ruin it a little bit from top teams that are really out there helping people win. Right. So be careful. I think the biggest thing for agents right now is to stay focused on the skills and pedal to the metal, because every market, it's always something.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Eventually
interesting
recovers.
with agents, and I find us kind of falling in this trap, right? You get a little transition, market goes down a little bit. It's like, where can I go spend my money to generate more leads and everything? Where it's like, listen, it's all basically, we've done analysis back and forth that 97% of our business comes from our database and referrals.
We know
Yeah,
it,
if if you're an agent, if you're a part-time agent looking for a job, or you want to be a part-time agent, we're looking for referral agents on our team over here.
and then go work at Home Depot.
We will have we will make your life extremely easy for you.
Or go retire in the sunset. Same thing, right? If that's a great point. If you're an agent and you're looking to get out of the business, move on to the next chapter in life, give us a call. We'll continue to
100%,
feed your retirement for you.
It's like anything else, though. When you're committed to something, you ride the wave.
Yes.
You got to stay the course. You just can't
Just
you
tell
fall
agents-
off the horse. You get back on the horse.
Well, and you got to
right?
annualize it. It's a career. You know, when I jumped into this business in 23, when I was these guys' age, I burned the ships. This is my career. This was my passion. So, you know, yes, we go up and down, and if the market's tough, I never said, oh my God, I guess I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah.
This is what my passion's always been. This is what I
Well, and you don't know what the other side of high looks like.
Yeah.
If you quit, you know, one of the
That's
greatest visuals I love is the U. Well, where buyers will say, I'm going to wait for the market to come down. The sellers say, I'm going to wait for the market to go up.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is it does this, and you don't know that you hit the bottom until it starts going back up. Right? And vice versa for the sellers. So it's really about get your goals in place for buyers and sellers, and for agents, it's stay the course. This is what you do at helping people win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great
Good deal.
advice. Ben, you want to close us out here? What else you got?
And on
You got
that
a lot of notes
note,
here.
you know, when you're looking for a house, whether it's to buy, sell, or invest, who you work with matters.
Absolutely.
It's true.
All right, guys. Carl, thank you so
Yeah,
much
no,
for
it's
being
my
here
pleasure.
today.
Thanks for the
Absolutely
invitation.
awesome. All right, guys, take care. Oh, and I will mention this. On our wonderful text us for a gift card scenario.
Listen, we're putting in stipulations right now. We're drawing the line.
Okay, no agents, right?
No agents are allowed to text us for the gift
And
card.
when we throw out our cell phone numbers and stuff, you can't text all of us. Text one.
And
right?
listen, we're keeping track of who the winners are. So you're not allowed to win more than once. Once you win once, it's got to be at least 2 months until your next
who
win.
won this last time?
Siobhan. Shout out to Siobhan.
There you go.
How many did you win?
I don't know. I think you texted me and David. But anyways, guys, listen, thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah,
Carl, thank you
great.
for being
No,
here.
thank
Ben,
you
as
for the
always.
invite. It's awesome.
And David and Aaron, enjoy your vacation wherever you're at.
Great.